Hi, folks. Welcome to Disability Landscape. I am Mark Knutson, and joining me today as co-host is Shawn Corbin. Welcome back to the show again, Shawn. How are things with you, and how is everything up in Duluth?
Duluth is amazing as always, especially this time of year when the snow is finally gone and you can be outside without a sweatshirt, and it's wonderful.
Which will be for like 2 months, right?
And we're gonna take advantage of every minute of those 2 months.
Yeah. So why don't you introduce who we will be having a conversation with, Shawn?
Well, we got somebody that I've known for quite a while. He's the supervisor of park sports and rec at Courage Kenney, Northland. Eric Larson. Did I get that right?
You got it.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Why don't you just start by basic stuff? What is Courage Kenney Northland?
Yeah, sounds good. So we've been providing community recreation and sports opportunities for people with some form of disability since 1979 in the Twin Forks communities. The former Courage Center had a service, Courage Duluth, and then in June of 13 we became an Allina Health company, and we're Courage Kenney Rehabilitation Institute Northland, and we still provide the same services, ongoing seasonal recreation and adaptive sports opportunities. Throughout the year, we try to focus on the region's outdoor recreation amenities. So there's some water sports, and there's some snow sports, and cycling, and about 18 different programs throughout the year.
How about Eric? I was curious, how big of an area do you draw from? Up, I would assume, not only Duluth but outside of Duluth. What kind of a reach do you have in northern Minnesota?
Good question, Mark. We have people that have currently that are using, adapted bikes, hand cycles, or trikes that live up in International Falls to Grand Marais. And we have ongoing, adaptive ski programs at Giants Ridge, which is about 60 miles north of here. We have people on the South Shore over in Ashland, in Superior, in the the northwestern Wisconsin region that take advantage of our stuff. And when we do events like our Great Lake Monoski Madness, we have people that come from 5 states away. So we draw from Wisconsin,
Wow.
Iowa, yeah, and the whole region.
I know your ski program, your ski clinics are quite popular from folks all over the country.
Right. Yeah, the skiing is sort of, we call it that's kind of the hood ornament of the program. It just,
Yeah, your bread and butter.
as Shawn said earlier, we deal with snow. There's a lot of snow through, we can ski for easily 6 months a year. And so we've partnered with Spirit Mountain and some other Nordic ski facilities in the area for a number of years. But Spirit Mountain is primarily where we offer programs. And one event that we started, I think it was 18 years ago, was the Great Lake Monoski Madness Camp. And it was for folks with lower extremity disabilities. They're skiing on a single ski. And yeah, as Shawn said, we've got folks that come from a wide range. We bring instructors in that are really highly tuned and focused on the sport of monoskiing from some of the programs in the Rocky Mountains, and from Breckenridge, from Crested Butte, from I think Winter Park. There's a whole host of adaptive programs that come out and support that event. But we draw participants because it's so unique. There's monoski camps out west, but there's not a lot that provide that level of depth of instruction and equipment and opportunities in the Midwest. There's really nothing like it. So it does bring people from all around. There's real intergenerational learning. So you've got, you could have an 8-year-old with spina bifida, and you could have a 60-year-old with a spinal cord injury, and they're learning from each other. And so it's really cool. And there's stuff happening off this also.
Is most I skied for a little bit, quite a few years ago, before all the mono skis. but is it, are a lot of the skiers all just using the mono skis? When I skied, it was basically, you know, you had a sled with a couple picks. And in fact, I want to tell a quick story because when I started out, you know, everyone had to get tethered, which I totally understood.
Yeah.
And I grew my disabilities from birth. So I've been sledding a lot, but I'm like, I'm on a big hill. I understand. So they tethered me to someone. And as the evening went on, after about 45 minutes, I'm like, oh, this is, you know, I got this. So I was getting a little fancy in my skiing. And all of a sudden I wiped out. And I'm like, what the heck happened? I didn't think, you know, I was getting a little cocky a little bit, but, you know, I was trying to behave myself because, you know, I was being tethered. So I wiped out, took the tethered person with me. The funny thing is, she had to come and admit to me. She said, you didn't cause that wipeout. Let's get down to the bottom and get you off of this tether. You don't need to be tethered more. But are they still using the sleds, or is a lot of it more still the monorail? If you could explain what that is also.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. So I joke about it. I've been around 27 years
Oh yeah.
you know, so I've seen a few iterations of adaptive
Yeah.
sports equipment along the way. And yeah, when I started, that's what we had. We had what were called Arroyas, and they were kind of a glorified sled that had, you know, a roll bar in the back and a couple of aluminum skegs underneath, and you used cut off ski poles to just provide resistance one side or the other to turn. Thankfully, those days are over. You know, because they weren't skiing really. You know, it was just kind of glorified sledding. Now there's a device called a bi-ski, which literally has two skis underneath it that work independent of each other. It has an air oil shock under it, so it provides absorption of bumps and of the terrain, but it also acts like your knees, like you're standing. So it actually pressures the ski different, but they're radically shaped at the front, and then they get narrow in the waist and then wide at the tails. So the ski shape itself promotes turning. And so the bi-ski is sort of the workhorse. That's what a lot of people would use if they just wanted to come out and have you know, have an experience that, you know, and they weren't going to spend a lot of time learning. A monoski, conversely, it's still a sit-down type of rig, but it has a little more sophistication in the shock. It has a little bit more, you know, a narrower footprint. You're only on a single ski. So you have handheld outriggers, which are like, you know, like forearm crutches with a ski. And though that technique requires, you know, more fundamental setup and functional ability to be able to maintain that initial balance, but also apply what we call rotary motions and kind of the pressure and edging and all the different things that are no different than stand-up skiing, really. So the equipment has, you know, I think it's been 4 or 5 iterations of different stuff that's come along in my time, and the sport has, you know, has absorbed or has become way more just accepted and mainstream. You can go to pretty much any Midwestern ski area now, and people aren't going to look at you funny and go, "Whoa, what are you doing here?" They're going to be like, "Well, yeah, cool. There's a monoskier." So, or a bi-skier. I think one of the big challenges with it, and you mentioned it, is just the risk aspect. We're trying to, you know, with any skiing, the fundamentals are safety, fun, and learning. You know, we're trying to keep people safe, otherwise they're not going to really want to come back, and if it's not fun, what's the point? And ideally we're learning a couple things about, you know, speed control and you know, terrain selection and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And you can do that with support. If you're using a bi-ski and you have the rule of thumb, if you have a what are called fixed outriggers, which are basically like pontoons out on the sides that would keep you from going all the way over. If you have those on, then you're going to have to be tethered. If those are gone, then basically you can self-arrest by falling over. You'll skid to a stop and you're fine. But that's just sort of the standard in in this. So monoski are hidden tethered and they fall. I think Shawn knows a little bit about that.
That's why I was chuckling to myself. I remember a night or two of laying on my back in the middle of the run there. But yeah, hey, but that's the thing. Like you said, you have to have it set up for you. And I think at that time, the right thing for me wasn't, it was down in the cities or something. But you guys could totally get it. And I will try it again. I promise you, I will. And that no, go ahead.
The progression of monoskiing is a little bit more like, I mean, you spend a lot of time with the seating and the positioning and the balance fore and aft and making sure the mechanics are all right, so that when you do get on the snow, real subtle motions cause a pressure change on the snow. And if you don't have those things done right, then all of a sudden it can be frightening, because you aren't able to slow down and speed control. But with all those things done and the proper fit ups and assessments, again, our goal is to make sure people want to come back and enjoy their time.
So Eric, with all this, the COVID and stuff, people are stuck inside, all winter long. People are, I think they're probably itching to do stuff this summer. What is your organization doing as far as that kind of stuff, keeping people safe, but also, how do you see that playing out with your summer programs?
Well, you're absolutely right, Shawn. What an isolating, difficult year it's been for so many of our friends and members of the community of folks with disabilities, and for everybody for that matter. It's just nobody's escaped the challenges of COVID, I don't think. But not being able to get out and express yourself through active living is pretty difficult. So we pivoted to just saying, hey, let's do what we can do, and we did a bunch of stuff virtual, and we're mostly done with that now as far as our work goes in the department. But we have done a ton of it, and learned a ton along the way, and it kept people engaged socially anyway. We did some spin classes for a year, basically pedal in place, yoga stuff, and a lot of things. But we're really, we have gotten back into in-person programming in the last couple of months. We had an archery program that we ran very successfully with kind of COVID protocols in place. We're running a power wheelchair soccer program currently, and cycling outdoors. We feel confident that we're going to be able to run programs, pretty much back to normal for summer. And we have a plan to do so. So our summer docket we've got a fishing event that we've done, and I think, Shawn, you've come to it a number of times.
I have.
At first Saturday in June, which is a great day on the water. Fishing's usually pretty good in early June. We've got cycling, golf, a dragon boat experience, a 4-week dragon boat thing for people that want to try out getting in a dragon boat, which is a 40-foot long boat. It's kind of a neat deal. Sea kayaking, sailing, and rowing clinics, and some water ski clinics, and then a couple of sea caves trips on the South Shore Lake Superior will be offered this summer. And there's still some masking requirements when people are milling about in tight areas. But once we're out on the water, we're not having a mask once we're on the water. So
right. So some of those things like the fishing tournament and like maybe the sea kayaking, that's not just for folks around the Duluth area. I know like that fishing tournament we had there for a while, we had folks coming from the cities and stuff, and it's just such a good time. I just wish I would just invite everyone out, really.
It's a fun day, weekend. In fact, camping's available on site. We've partnered with the 148th Fighter Wing. They've been the Air Guard has been supportive of us, allowing us to use their facility, and We provide volunteers that donate a boat if people don't have their own boats, and that's what's fun. There's people like Shawn who bring their own boat, but then we have people who otherwise wouldn't be fishing, and we have pontoons that are available for folks that might not, this might be their only crack all year to fish, and opportunity to fish all year. And so yeah, that event is fun. And again, the fishing on Fish Lake Reservoir, multi-species production is excellent. So, people think about walleyes, and there's plenty of those to be caught. They've had a slot limit there, so it's sometimes hard to catch small ones. There's some really nice ones in there.
When is that fishing event again?
Yeah, June 5th. It's always, right. It coincides with the ALS fishing tournament, walleye fishing tournament on Island Lake, and that's, we used to run it
Okay.
on Island, but now we're on Fish. Yeah, so that, it is a little bit limited because they give us so much space, and there's not a public boat launch. It's a private boat launch, so we only have so many docks and whatnot. But
Oh, right, yeah.
so it's, all told, we probably have 50 people out, including guides and volunteers and anglers that are coming out and registering for the day. But
The
it's a good day.
volunteers really make that program with all the help, loading your boat, unloading your boat, the food. God, the food. Oh my God. The best part, really.
Yeah, really.
Because I'm not a really great fisherman, so I gotta look forward to something.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, Eric, because I was looking at the different programs, and one that I didn't realize is the adaptive rock climbing.
Yeah.
So what level of disabilities and how is that done, I guess?
Yeah, good question, Mark. It's in partnership with the College of St. Scholastica Outdoor Pursuit Program. They've just basically have an outdoor recreation aspect for students primarily on campus, but they partner with us and have for a number of years. And as far as adapting it goes, I mean, there can be simple things like just incentivizing people to go a little further. We have young kids that are involved, and they'll put little decorations up on the wall and get them fired up. We have people that are afraid of heights and, just not sure. They'll create big holds, so it's a little easier to get a hold of. But we also have some fairly specialized ascender devices. So if you're physically not able to use your legs, you can still use an ascender where you push up and then use your upper body to pull, and then it won't let you go down. You go up, and basically it's an ascender is what they use them for, kind of big wall climbing out like in Yosemite and things like that, where they have fixed lines, and it's called jugging up a line. So that is how, and it's designed. There was a guy by the name of Mark Wellman. I don't know if any of you remember that name or not, but he was kind of
It sounds familiar.
He's a Pera that had climbed some of those big walls, and he had done he designed that device for folks with lower extremity disabilities to still rock climb. So it's, we try to make it as functional as possible.
Right.
Some requirements in the upper extremity category to be able to kind of pull yourself. Once they're at the top, then the device becomes like a normal climbing situation where you're belaying them and basically lowering people back down. But yeah, we have people that'll do that 2 or 3 times, and it's just a workout essentially.
Yeah, because I would assume you have to have some fairly decent arm strength. I mean, it's not like you got to be the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk,
right?
But you got to have some strength.
Yeah, and we have the ability to set up a different rope on that to actually provide some counterbalance pressure to
I was wondering about that. If someone who's limited in the arms but can still use their arms to some extent, if there was some counterbalance so that they use as much as they can, but then get assistance with it also.
Yeah, exactly. There is that, and yeah, it's a neat activity. Again, there's a program in the Twin Cities that's been doing that. Courage Kenney has run a climbing program down in the Twin Cities, as well as the one up here. So and it's getting to be fairly, there's other just kind of public climbing gyms that are that are getting, I think what I've observed in my time being involved in adaptive recreation and sport is that people have shifted a little bit in their thinking, that it's not just this, oh, how are we going to do that, or why would we do that, or it's not in our
Yeah.
just to do that, to, you know what, absolutely, it's a cool thing for me, why wouldn't it be for somebody else? So how do we do this? And I love that. I love the curiosity that we see, the hey, let's do this together. It's a partnership. We got to find a way what works, you know, and people have shifted, at least what I observe in a lot of cases, not all, there's still holdouts, but for the most part, I see people just being curious, like, absolutely, let's find a way to make this happen. We see it in mountain biking right now, and some off-road cycling. There's getting to be more and more of that. Mountain biking is kind of a big thing in the upper Midwest, and there's getting to be some adaptive, kind of
Yeah.
optimized mountain bike.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yep.
And e-assist on the bikes has made that more possible because the bikes are heavier. They've got full suspension. So a 50-pound bike might be used for somebody that's not pedaling with their legs, but they throw a motor, an electric motor, and e-assist on there, and all of a sudden it evens the playing field, and it's really neat. So the mountain bike community is saying, absolutely, let's do it. What's it going to take to make trails more accessible? And Three Rivers Park District has done an excellent job at creating some in the Twin Cities, and our COGS group in Duluth, Cyclists That Get You Gimme Shores, is working on it, and so we're really excited about that.
Do you up in the Duluth area, do you have youth basketball then, or?
I sure wish I could answer yes. I mean, when I started, that was the first thing I did. I started my job in September 19th of 1994. I remember it vividly. And one of the first things I did was the junior Courage Kenney, well, it was called the Courage Classic in the fall.
Yeah.
You guys probably know, 40 plus years. And we had a team back then, and Shawn played on it, right? Yeah. I mean, it was,
Okay.
Oh, yes.
you weren't playing when I started. You had already
Not then.
played on the Flyers, but we had a team nonetheless. And back then, what we had, and this is kind of what's evolved at that point, all through the 80s, the Duluth and surrounding schools supported after-school recreation for kids with disabilities. So if for whatever reason we had a program set up at, say, Lincoln, which is kind of where Lincoln Park Elementary, where we used to run our basketball programs, but a kiddo was at Congdon or another elementary school, the buses would provide transportation to that after-school activity, and then the parent would have to pick them up after the activity was done. And that transportation funding ended in about, I don't know, 2007, 2008. And so kind of the downside of the mainstreaming thing is instead of the kids being in one building where we could program around that for a basketball or something like that, they had to get there. And the classic barrier to community in general is transportation. So we haven't had an active junior basketball program since the late, probably 2002, somewhere in there. And the adult team, I think the last year the guys are playing, Scotty and Charlie and Jim and Rick, and a lot of guys that are still doing stuff but not playing ball. Was, I think, 05 or 06.
Yeah, it was early in the odds for sure, because I remember playing in the very last game that we played, and for some reason I scored like 15 points, which I normally have 15 misses, but it was against the arch rival Gophers, and I remember that vividly, because we would always we were buddies. We there wasn't any bad blood amongst any of us. We had a good time always. But that's the thing.
I was a Gopher.
Yeah, I know you were.
Yeah.
But like Eric was saying, without the juniors playing, it's tough to have, people don't grow up playing basketball and want to play adults, so that kind of gets lost. And people move and do whatever. And,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I know I'd told Eric if there was ever any interest, I would love to help coach or something, you know, but
Yeah, because
we'll
I
see.
coached the,
Offers still out there.
yeah, it was fun. I coached the juniors a long time ago, and it was, yeah, it was very enjoyable. So, well, I got the signal for us to wrap it up. I think we've run our time. I'm always surprised whenever I go into these interviews. I'm always like, okay, how are we going to talk for 25 minutes? Well, once we get the conversation going, next thing I know, I'm getting the cue to wrap it up, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that was another quick one. So, but I want to thank you, Eric Larson of Courage Kenney. I didn't say Courage Center so badly, it's still in my tongue, but I want to thank Eric Larson of Courage Kenney Duluth for joining us. And Shawn, once again, it was fun having you as a co-host.
Absolutely.
And this will be a wrap for Disability Landscape. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.